All right, welcome back to Bottles and Bottles, the uncut, unfiltered, unprepared podcast where we talk a little bit about whiskey and a lot about the journeys of becoming a first-time dad. Joined back on the couch with Adam. Welcome back.
You know what I was just thinking?
What were you thinking?
Has anyone called you dad yet?
Nope.
Okay.
Actually, I think Morgan did once. I was playing guitar
Yeah.
for her belly,
Yes.
which I still think is a weird concept, but I get it.
Playing it for her belly,
Yeah, I mean for Morgan and the baby.
and you're yet to be born child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was actually kind of crazy because the second I started playing, the baby started kicking like crazy. Like visually, you could see it kicking.
Little rocker in there.
Yeah, yeah.
That's wild.
But other than that, and I think she might have said like, "Oh, do you like it when Daddy plays the guitar or something like that?"
Mhm.
Like,
What was that like?
I didn't.
Didn't skip a beat.
Yeah, didn't really strike me. I don't think it will. I just asked
True
Morgan.
artist.
I just
Always performing.
I just asked Morgan the other day. I said, "What do you think? Like, when do you think will be the point where we go, oh God, we have a baby?" I said 2 weeks in.
No,
I think so.
I don't think so.
You think sooner?
Yeah. I think it's going to be in, not the delivery room, but whatever the room is after the delivery room.
Postpartum, I believe, is what they call that.
I'm glad we're here. I'm learning new things.
Yeah. I did get a tour of the hospital.
Yeah.
Although I've been there because I
Okay.
worked at that hospital when I was selling.
A young buck trying to
I was
make a buck.
selling hip and knee replacement systems. That was one of my accounts. So I've been to the hospital before, but
Yeah.
I hadn't really like walked around to see what it looked like. So I actually got to walk in and see some of the rooms.
Mm-hmm.
Because you stay there. You know, it's like a hotel room for you.
You got to tour the facilities.
Right.
Yeah.
So at any rate, that was kind of cool, but I don't see myself really coming to that realization until like 2 weeks in to the baby being home. Because I feel like at first it's going to be like shock, like I don't know what to do. And when you get home, it's like you're just trying to survive.
I think you'll know, man.
Okay.
I think you'll be okay.
All right.
You got to remember, man, you were once a baby.
So that's like Morgan's favorite quote from the show so far. when you said, "Oh, you guys forget once I was a baby." We were talking about like furniture or something like that too. Like,
Yeah. We've all been there.
yeah,
You know what the need is, and eventually it just gets back to primal
Oh boy,
instincts.
agreed. Well, before we get off the rails here,
Think of primal. This is
Yeah.
out of this world primal.
we're gonna go into one. We're obviously gonna uncork it with the whiskey that we're drinking.
Rocky Balboa Rye.
Yes, and then we're gonna talk about some unique baby gifts that Morgan and I got.
I'm loving.
Especially what's sitting next to us on the couch. If you're watching on YouTube,
Yes.
there's a really cool thing that's sitting next to us. And we kind of, we talked a little bit about some of the things we got, but let's talk about some of those unique things.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to buy somebody a stroller or baby's bottles, things like that, how can you get creative with baby gifts?
Yeah.
And
And on top of it, like if you're at that party, you're probably a close friend
mm-hmm.
that is going to be around the child and the family for quite some time.
Right.
And what better to, that's your first gift to the little one.
Yeah. Yeah. Agreed. So we'll talk about this new Riff whiskey, and then we'll jump into some creative gifts that you can give to people who are expecting. So this new Riff I just recently picked up.
It's a new riff on an old tradition, apparently, is what they have on the bottle.
Yeah.
I'm reading it from the back.
I had never heard of this. This is the new Riff Balboa Rye whiskey.
So is that mash bill say 95% Balboa Rye, 5% malted rye?
Correct. Yes, 95% heirloom Balboa Rye, whatever the hell that means.
Highlight heirloom. Man, that must be heirloom Balboa rye. That must be a specific type of grain of rye. Like heirloom Balboa must be.
Heirloom is a value object that has belonged to a family for several generations.
Yeah. We're looking for heirloom rye or heirloom Balboa rye. That's got to be the grain.
So, yeah, it is. So
Okay.
it's 95%. That's the grain. 95% of this heirloom, this family-owned traditional Balboa rye grain, 5% malted rye. So this is a lot of rye going on.
Look at the legs on that thing.
Oh, man. Had him with his legs. So this, you can go check out some of the specs. I won't read this from the website, but
I've not experienced this distillery bottle label prior to 2022. Is this new?
I don't know. I really don't know.
Or has it been out and they just changed the marketing labels?
So this says it's aged at least 4 years.
Okay.
I really don't know a whole lot about it. I just kind of picked it up and figured we'd try it out today since you're the rye guy.
Yeah, bottled in bond, so it's 100 proof.
Yeah, non-chill filtered, correct?
Without chill filtration, yeah.
So they skip that extra step, which gives it a little bit higher alcohol content and maintains some of that flavor. Now,
It's grown exclusively for distillation at New Riff by Fogg Family Farm in Indiana.
Okay. Indiana. All right.
Red and blue fruit, along with piquant. It's new for me.
Piquant. It looks French.
Spice.
Piquant. So what this is saying on the website, the nose, clean, ripe oak. I totally understand that.
Yep.
Totally get it. It develops into a more honeyed fruit, which I don't know that I'm getting honey out of it. I definitely get the fruit out of it. There is this aftertaste that I don't exactly know how to explain, but now that I'm looking, wintergreen, nutmeg. Wintergreen strikes a chord with me here. I definitely taste some kind of mint.
I get the spiciness. Like it sits on the middle of my tongue.
Man, that is good. And I've mentioned this before that I've never been a big fan of New Riff, and we just did a malted rye
last week
with Bill from New Riff, and I liked it.
Bill's a big fan of malted rye.
He is. Now this is very different. I got to tell you, if you see this bottle out in the wild, this New Riff,
the Balboa don't see very
rye,
often. Definitely pick it up.
Pick it up. I was lucky enough. I know the owner of a shop, and they had 2 bottles left. And I know I had texted you and I texted Bill, and at the time nobody was responding.
We have day jobs.
So, yeah, so do I.
It's in the middle of some meetings.
So I ended up getting both bottles.
Yep.
He gave them to me for $40 plus tax each. I think retail on it was $49, $44 or $49, somewhere around there. But man, for 100 proof, right?
That's a good bottle.
Yeah, 100 proof. This is a great bottle, and it's got a very different. Like I said, I get a mintier aftertaste. So at any rate,
not quite like what is that liquor you have? The end of the night shot, not Sambuca.
The peppermint schnapps.
No. I always make a joke. It's like if you want to kiss your sweetie at the end of the night, you got to go to the bar and get yourself a shot of. It's not Black House, Rumpelmans.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Never had it, but I know the term. All right. At any rate, this New Riff is great. So if you see it, grab it. Now let's jump into the next topic.
Before we do jump, it's even better in this aged in ore.
So Adam is drinking out of the aged in ore whiskey glass. I'll put a little picture or something like that.
I mean, if you want to hold yours up there.
Yeah, so I've got the Glencairn.
Yeah. It's a little bit wider base. You get a little bit more of the vapors.
It's kind of like a Canadian style Glencairn.
I like it.
Very, very cool.
Yeah, quite good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you bringing this to
market. Aged in ore. Awesome. Thank you. Let's move on to some baby gifts. A real quick segment on.
So we're looking right here at a diaper cake.
And I can't believe that you knew the term. You walked in and you said, "Hey, who got you the diaper cake?"
My mother is like a professional diaper cake maker.
I was like, Are you kidding me?
She's very, very good at doing these things. I feel like I bring up my parents quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very good aesthetic for what you and Morgan have in this household. It's clean,
so clean.
good lines.
For those of you not watching on YouTube, first of all, what are you doing? Go to YouTube. Go subscribe. Go give us a like. We're trying to bring you some valuable content. We got a lot of product reviews coming up, so jump over to YouTube, Bottles and Bottles. But if you're not watching, a diaper cake is basically a cake-shaped object made out of rolled up diapers.
Yep.
And you basically just take the diapers, you roll them up into like a tiny little burrito.
Yep.
And you stack them around and you wrap them with some sort of lace material or something.
Ribbon.
Yeah.
Something.
So you've got this wider base and then it gets a little bit smaller and then it gets a little bit smaller.
So this is...
Looks like a cake.
This is I think, traditional diaper cake. What I've been known to be mixed in are baby bottles. The extra tops to the bottles.
Really?
I don't pacifiers.
Okay.
Some people call them nooks. I think that's what my little sister called hers.
Nooks.
Towels.
Binkies.
Bibs.
Yeah.
Like different things that can be like mixed in. It can get really elaborate. Like if you look up these things on Google of diaper cakes, they can get really intricate.
What a cool idea.
It's very creative.
I've never seen anything like this.
It's a better way to present a set of diapers rather than
a box of Pampers.
here you go.
Right.
So yeah, very much appreciated. And you can hide things in the middle of them.
I don't know if I can pull this out.
You could probably pull this off the top. This piece.
Oh, there you go. So if you're watching, there's actually a bottle of wine stuffed in the middle of this diaper cake, which
nice
is
bottle of rosé, by the way. If
nice
you guys
bottle
aren't
of
familiar with
it's
Ohio.
Yeah, it's Michelangelo's winery. Very cool because you can kind of create this base of something built around it.
Yeah.
And Morgan didn't know. She didn't even realize. It took her, she said 5-10 minutes now this was from her work baby shower, which I did not attend.
Right.
She's lucky enough to have 3 different baby showers.
Wow, good for her. And you.
Yeah, I will. No, we're super grateful for everybody. Now this was a really creative idea. I'm fully sold on the diaper cakes. I want to do one for somebody at some point in my life.
For the guys.
Yeah. And you can obviously sprinkle in some other things. I could see this being like, let's say you have, your normal baby shower that's typically driven towards the girl's side of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've also heard of guys doing like a diaper shower. What do they call it? Like a diaper party or
maybe
something like that, where guys get together and most guys bring over a box of Pampers, throw them to you, and you drink and play golf or something like that.
Yeah.
This could be kind
in
of
the box of Pampers is usually like a box of cigars and a whiskey.
Right. Now this is kind of a cooler way to do that, and I could see somebody sprinkling in some golf tees, some golf balls, a bottle of whiskey in the middle, of course.
For the girls that might want to get a little creative, if there's a guy on the other, or
right,
one of your buddies, if they're nice enough to have a girl that wants to put one of these
100%.
I don't know if I'd spend the time.
I would.
You would?
I would. I'm a creative. Right. I'm definitely the creative type that loves this kind of stuff. So
I'm
it's
pretty
super
minimalistic when it comes to that thing.
Yeah. Well, at any rate,
okay.
Thank you for who got us this gift. This is so cool, and great job on it.
What about some of the other things you guys got?
Well, we mentioned that one of the great things that we liked was from Miles, one of our buddies, who got us this huge gift basket.
Yeah.
It did have diapers. It did have some hand knitted things in it, which is really nice from Mrs.
She's great.
From his mom, our buddy's mom.
Mrs. Ratto.
And
she's a legend.
It came in a nice big gift basket, and towards the bottom was a bottle of wine and a bottle of whiskey.
Of course.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, there's a reason you create a registry, because you're thinking of what are we going to need?
Yeah.
Right? Especially with a firstborn. We have nothing.
And I have no idea what you guys would need.
We have nothing. So we were really putting on a lot of the things. So it's like you kind of know what you're getting already.
Yeah.
or what you've asked for, which is always a weird thing.
Well, it's just kind of the list of, I mean, it's not necessarily you're asking for it.
You're saying, hey, if you want to get us something, these are things that we're looking for. That's the way
I think
you can
that's
politely
the
put
best
it.
way to do it is like, this is what's on our list of what's left to collect.
Mm-hmm.
And here it is if you feel, so inclined.
Collect, as if I'm collecting diapers.
Basically.
Yeah, well.
I mean, let's think about the number of collective diapers you're going to need for your child over the next, conservatively, 3 years. Think of every time you use the loo.
I thought you were going to say, think of every time you use a diaper.
Well, you start with them and you probably end with them.
No, I think it's a weird concept to think of, but it's such a normal thing these days is to have a baby registry list.
Yeah.
And it's nice to get the things that you've kind of put on there saying, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is what we need. Again, especially with a first child, we're looking for the essentials. We're going to buy our own stroller because that's a lot to ask. Strollers are quite expensive. You're talking upwards of $700 for
A stroller.
a nice one. But the usual stuff, diapers, baby bottles, bibs, spit up blankets, sound machines, thermometers, which might strike a bell with you.
A little bit.
Because what you got us a thermometer and a travel sound machine.
Yep.
And those are greatly appreciated.
Just a little something.
Now, which thermometer did you get us? Did you get
I
us
believe it was in the in-ear.
the in-ear as opposed to the anal version, correct? Which is what Bill says is preferred. Now, again, I don't know if that's for him or if it's for
Here's my reasoning.
babies, but
You're going to have that around forever.
Hunter, we do not have a thermometer.
No.
If I felt like I had a fever,
Yeah.
I would be opening up the box, your box.
Yeah.
And
That was my thought. Because, I remember when I was a kid, you always need one. And I'm a big fan of practicality.
it's a perfect Adam gift.
Yep.
Dude, it's something
I'm
that's
here for a long time and a good time.
it's something that is needed. It's something that kind of gets lost in translation. But it's such an essential thing. And an in-ear one is different than the ones that most adults would probably use.
Yeah, usually stick it under the tongue or whatnot.
Yeah, right.
Or they've got them by skin
Temple
contact.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Super appreciative of those things. I mean, everything that we get, we're very, very grateful for. But, I wanted to do a quick segment on this diaper cake and some of the more creative things that we got with some bottles of wine. Actually, a buddy of mine sent me a box of golf balls, and he took out every single golf ball and drew on it different items. He's an artist.
Yeah.
So he drew on every golf ball. He drew a diaper on one, a bottle on another. He drew the poop emoji on another.
That's great.
Super creative. And it was he said in his note, he said, hey, I got you a box of diapers, but I also want to get you this because I know you guys are getting so many things for the baby. It's also a reminder that you're also a human being and you're also going to have your indulgences, whether that may be whiskey or golf or music or artistry, whatever it is. He said, I just want you to remember, because he's got some kids of his own.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, you're going to have to dedicate so much of your time to this baby, but it's also important to take the time for you
in yourself
and also give the time for Morgan. And what a great gift, and also what a cool way for me to transition that conversation with Morgan. And it was we need to be an open book with each other because we're going to need to step away. I'm going to need to step away and go to the gym.
That's a good point.
And she's going to need to step away to go to the gym or go to the store. And look, we're going to love this baby like nothing ever before.
Yeah.
But you're still going to need those little breaks for yourself. I mean, hey, I love Morgan than anybody I've ever loved. And I still need my time. She still needs her time to do her thing.
You still have identity.
Right.
You're not just the parents of baby gold.
Right. So it was just such a cool gift that I got that kind of sparked up this conversation. Was like, you're right. We've been so wrapped up in how are we going to do this? Who's going to wake up in the middle of the night? Who's going to do this? Look, we're going to figure that all out. At the end of the day, we need to make sure, obviously, number one priority, baby's safe, happy, healthy.
Yep.
Number two, us, Morgan and I, we are also safe, happy, and healthy. So it was kind of a reminder to me to take a step back and go, my life is not over. Because you've heard that term before, and I know you're laughing.
Man. It's when life starts.
I know. Everybody says like, oh man, like you're giving up everything. I don't think that's true. What are your thoughts? Because I know you're very analytical, and I wanted to catch you off guard with that question. What are your thoughts on people who say your life is now over because you're married and have kids?
Unfiltered take on this batch?
Yeah, unfiltered as always.
So there's a big perspective, of what someone else can share with you. If they're single and they're saying you have so much you're losing, they don't see what you're gaining. They're at a different point in their life. That's fine.
Glass is half full.
Or it's just a different glass. They may be drinking a Hurricane. You're drinking a nice glass of whiskey.
God, I'm going to need to sleep on that comment. Okay.
New Orleans Hurricanes? Come on, man.
Okay.
All right. Maybe I had a trip a little too soon ago.
All right, go for it.
Anyways, there may be just a different phase of their life. From my perspective, I think you have a lot to gain. Starting a family is a big undertaking, and to some people, it can just seem overwhelming. So it's easy to go to, oh my God, you're losing so much of your past life. But they're not thinking about the life that you're going towards.
Yeah.
You're starting the next generation of your legacy, of what your parents' legacy has been. And it's a natural cycle. So even though someone else may be fearful, doesn't mean you have to be.
Okay. Now, what are your thoughts on personal time when the baby is born?
It's important because not only are you getting personal time, but you're teaching your child that it's okay that you're not there. Or it's okay to be with just mom, or it's okay to be with just you.
Jeez, dude. I was talking to my mom the other day.
Yeah.
And she was listening to one of our podcasts, and even my dad too. They were like, Adam is so insightful.
That's good.
They were like, we literally enjoy listening to Adam. Not that Bill's bad to listen to or I'm bad to listen to, but
yep.
You bring a different value, and that's something that I didn't think of. I'm thinking from a selfish aspect of I'm going to need time to go to the gym for myself. But from your point of view, you're going, no, that's great, but it's also good for the baby too to be just with mom, just with dad, and
take a step further, neither of you guys being there. Because I know with what we've gone through over the last couple of years, it's been really difficult for families to separate. You're entrusting your child with, another person during a time where health and personal space has been highly in focus. But we're still living, we're still human. And there may be a bit of a difficulty right now in trying to allow that trust in other people. But you're going to need to. And it's big in development because it's going to help your child advance from a perspective of, I am a person of the world, instead of, I am a person of my parents and myself who exists in this world.
Okay.
They're an individual as well, just as you and Morgan are.
Yeah.
So the sooner you get them exposed to, I'm okay on my own.
Yeah.
Or I'm okay with mom. I'm okay with dad. I'm okay with grandma, grandpa, uncle, aunt, whoever it may be. It's just getting them familiar. Because I've seen other times where it's mom and dad leave the room and all the walls fall down and they feel unsafe.
Yeah.
It's just building confidence, building character, and it's teaching them of, you're going to be okay. So I think taking time away from little gold is important in, small steps, but you're teaching even when you're not there. And it's kind of that practice of, let's just shake the tree and see what falls off, because what are you instilling there of what are you teaching and what are they holding on to when you're not around?
Right.
That's your baseline, like core things of, discipline, routine, expectation, demeanor. I mean, there's a lot that goes in there.
Okay. Real quick, do you have another 10 minutes or so?
Yeah.
Why don't we take a quick break, get a refill, because I feel like we're digging into something special here. I've got a couple questions I want to ask you and get your opinion on.
Cool.
So let's take a quick break, and we will be right back. Thank you. Welcome back to Bottles and Bottles. Adam just gave me a quick refill. There's just a couple more questions that I wanted to ask him. If you missed the first part of this, we are drinking the new Riff Balboa Rye, which has been fantastic.
Very enjoyable. Great sipper. I think I could probably enjoy more than one of these, but I know we're running up on some time today.
Yeah, and I know you have to work as well.
Yeah, we got some things to cross off the list.
So we just kind of touched on, man, we went from Balboa Rye, and then we dug into creative baby gifts, much like this diaper cake, which is super cool. And then we went into some, one of the gifts reminded me that it's important for me to take time for myself, and Morgan for her to take time for herself.
For sure.
And it started to bring up this topic of, especially in today's day and age, it's hard for kids. And I wanted to ask you, what do you think about a child who was born right before COVID started? How do you think they're coping with going to school? Because they're almost at that age. I know I've got a niece and a nephew, and my niece is getting ready to go to preschool, and she was born right before COVID started. So she did not have a lot of exposure, not only to other kids or going out, things like that, but she, the parents, my brother and sister-in-law, were always home because it was COVID times.
Yeah. Development is really important on those first 3 years, from what I understand. Granted, quick reminder, like, no kids. I grew up in a household where there was always kids.
Yeah.
My mom, was a stay-at-home mom. She watched kids in the neighborhood.
Yeah, she did a lot of babysitting and things like that.
Yeah, and it was nice because it exposed me to that early on. And there's some kids that I've seen as I've grown up. I remember when little Cotton, this beautiful little girl.
Cotton?
That was her nickname. My dad nicknamed her Cotton because when she was born, she had very, very blonde hair, and it stuck up, and it just looked like a cotton ball. And she was so small, she'd fit in like your two hands in a cup.
Okay.
And now she might be in high school now, but I saw her grow up from an infant.
Yeah.
And it was cool. And she's very, very smart, very intellectual. And you kind of see those development stages and how that is affected. So with kids that grew up in COVID era, they were very used to the home. They didn't go out a ton, maybe outside, but you weren't in big crowds. So I think they may be a little disadvantaged. They may be a little bit more standoffish.
Okay.
And I'm a big believer that no matter what point of being a human, you can learn new things. You can adapt. You can change. It's only as stubborn as you may be.
Right.
But you can figure things out and get better at them if that's a goal of yours.
Okay.
Now, it's hard to figure out what's a goal for kids, but if some other kid's having fun on the playground, I'm sure another one's going to want to go and have it. And then if it gets overcrowded, then you could step away whenever not. You want to do that. But
yeah, I
think it's going to be interesting from a social experiment perspective of what it's going to look like on child development.
Right.
I'm not a specialist by any means. I don't have any background in it other than just being able to witness young kids and kids. I mean, even growing up in hockey, like we were around a rink, you see kids all the time. More so now. And I think it's just come out in everyday habits. Maybe they're more tied to screen time with phones and iPads. I know it influences behaviors. I mean, when I walk through a rink now, I see kids dancing like in front of a phone, you know, for like, it must be some like TikTok or like Instagram videos.
That tic-tac.
The good old tic-tac. What's that tic-tac? Are you recording a video for tic-tac there, guy? But
no, that's
needless to say, I think it's going to be interesting. I don't know what it's going to do for society as a whole. I think parents should probably keep that in mind of how do we want our child to be? Because that's a big influence, right? Like, goodness, I mean, I've been out and parents are starting to get to the point of like, man, let's push the envelope. Let's go take them out to the fair. Let's go take them to Cedar Point. Let's make sure that they're cool with this thing. Let's get them in a crowd. Because that falls on the shoulders of parents. It's not,
it absolutely
it's not
has to.
schools or like anything else to push them into it. Like,
right.
You are a person of the world, not a person. I mean, you are also a person of your community, but what life do you want to create? And it's really cool. I mean, from a creative like you, how do you want life to look? And it's like, it gets daunting because you're sitting there like, whoa.
Yeah.
You're telling me I got a blank canvas? Well, yes, sir, you do. Yeah. Just because you have the constructs of your day that you have to wake up, go to the gym, get to work, do your thing.
Yeah.
Finish at 5. Then you could start up your side hustle. And you do it all week until you can enjoy a whiskey on a Sunday with a guy that's got a half decent brain and a pretty darn good hat. Not to toot my own horn, but like you do these things to enjoy and you create and you construct your own way of life. And you get to do that all over again of what you want it to look like with your kid and your wife.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing because it's what you want it to be. And your walls and your restrictions are only what you bring it. Like that's where you stop and where your comfort zone is. And you're then passing that on to your kids. So
right. So COVID is a hurdle for sure.
Can be,
but it's more so about this blank canvas that I have ahead of me, and
you could also use it as a benefit.
Yeah,
because you could think a lot of people might be complacent.
Right.
You could also, I mean, depends what you want. I mean, from a getting ahead perspective in school or culture or art, music, sports. I mean, I think I'm a big fan of sports and with kids. Team sports. It teaches a lot.
Agreed. I mean, geez, look at the journey that we've been on together.
I mean, how many different people do you think you've interacted with? Not even been friends with, interacted with.
Oh, I mean, it's countless.
And how many times were you on the ice where somebody slashed you and for the betterment of the team, you didn't retaliate?
Yeah.
I think that's a big, big valuable thing out there and a lesson in the world of just because you get hit doesn't mean that you need to swing back. Because at some point it could hurt someone else close to you, not even you.
Man, that should be that sounds like a famous quote from like Wayne Gretzky. Like I'm literally gonna put that in quotes because that truthfully runs deep, and that's why I wanted to open the discussion with you on, parenting and COVID babies specifically because I think I've thought way further down the road. I've thought of what happens when maybe a baby born during COVID. When did COVID start? 2020?
It started rumblings.
Well,
2019 in November.
The shutdown was 2020 in the U.S.
I can judge it based off of market dynamics.
Of course you can.
March 2020.
Okay.
We saw a bottom in markets. So it was just prior to that, things were really starting to deteriorate. I remember January 2020, things were getting real sticky and weird.
Okay.
February was no bueno. March was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And then it was, we were figuring it out from there. And it was about a year, 18 months. I remember, man, we had so many industry professionals sitting there saying, we're going to take a 2-week pause.
Yeah. God.
And 2 years later, we're like, we'll try and get back to the office.
Right. So what I've been thinking about is, how is the generation that was born between the end of 2019, or I mean, really any time 2019, and 2020, how are they going to compare to those who were 3 years older than them and 3 years younger than them? Much like my baby's going to be, because we're due in almost 2023.
Yeah,
you know,
you're right there.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen when those 20-year-olds are up against each other. Because look, we face competition in our jobs.
100%. All the time.
And we see a lot of these market shifts based on what we call the modern consumer. What is the modern consumer going to look like in those eras?
I think a little bit more inclusive. The focus of what they're looking at might be more along the lines of authenticity. Maybe a bit of I think treating people better is going to be more of a run true type of thing.
Yeah.
I hope the inclusiveness continues. I'm a big person for live and let live.
Love it.
If as long as what you're doing doesn't infringe upon my freedoms and my wishes, you are free to do what you want.
I love it.
And I think there should be more of that, but we'll see.
Okay.
But I think treating people with kindness is something that's going to live more true, especially with the rise of certain personalities on social media. I'm a big believer in just treating people right. I'm not big on social media. I do like, various platforms, Twitter, YouTube. It keeps me connected with the communities I interact with.
Sure. And you can choose which communities you want to be in.
Yeah.
Which is great.
And I think living your truth, like these are the things that I like. It doesn't mean it needs to be your thing, but that's my belief.
Yeah.
And I think just living what it is that you want is going to be more prevalent. Breaking down the walls of these are your restrictions and you need to live by it. I think that's kind of what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And that's setting the stage for the next, hopefully, 10, 20, 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, we'll be just trying to guide and help others.
And those are, man, I can pull so many great quotes out of that I can say, this is what Uncle Adam would say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, literally, that's what I can tell my baby. So that's kind of why I want to ask you those things.
Yeah.
And man, we can dig into.
That's an evolving one, man. That changes on monthly, yearly basis.
There's a lot to dig into there, but the point here is, we've gone from. Think about today. We've gone from sharing a whiskey together. We got together on a Sunday morning, rather, and got to sit down and catch up with each other, which I think is super important to do.
100%.
And it kind of stemmed from what we got with these really creative baby gifts.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's on the registry, but can be a little bit more creative. Super cool.
Great.
But what it's really sparked is this idea of us sitting down, having a conversation of taking time for myself and creating a conversation between myself and Morgan, because we're at that point in our stage where it's just doctor's appointments and being ready for the baby. And I always feel like there's something else I can do to prepare. And I think having open lines of communication, talking about parenting styles, talking about what's going on in the world right now.
I have an interesting thought, comment, question.
Sure.
What's out there for I know we do this remote,
Yeah.
right? Your
Yeah.
house. How can we bring together guys in a group call to be talk about dads? Grab your bottle of whiskey, go around. Yeah, here's what I'm drinking.
I love it. I think.
But then, what Zoom might that be? And Teams, I like Teams. I'm at Microsoft.
There's a lot of platforms you can, even if it's a chat group, even if we get on Discord. Maybe
If anybody wants to maybe do a Friday debrief,
yeah,
and you guys aren't going out on dates, whatever, or with the gals,
yeah,
you want to get together and talk about what they're going through, because the best insight that you're going to get about being a dad is the foresight of others that are going to give you.
The best insight is the foresight
that others are going to get from you. I mean,
Man.
even your dad, Rusty down the street.
Yes.
Right? He's going to be able to prepare you for what you're going to go through week 1, day 1, month 1. Here's what you should look out for. It may be different. It may not be the exact same, but it's probably going to rhyme. It's going to sound, it's going to look somewhat similar.
Yeah.
Well, that doesn't change. The landscape, hockey, the game of hockey, right?
Mm-hmm.
Largely is the same.
Yeah.
Over the last 100 years that you've had NHL hockey, the game is largely the same. Some rules, they're different.
Sure.
But the end goal of winning the Stanley Cup is still pretty much the same.
The general concept is the same.
Yeah. So you've got different legends like Rusty, like my dad Dale.
Oh yeah, both legends.
Bill's dad.
Yeah, Big Bill.
Big legend.
Bill Senior.
Bill Senior, big legend. But they know what's going on. They have insight from their era. We have insight from our era and the guys that were in between. Reach out to your local communities. We can have one here. If anybody is interested in looking for some help, let's just chat, man.
Yeah,
it's a good way to do it.
I agree.
So
we'll look
maybe
into
getting something
kinda,
together like that. Twitch, live stream, something.
Let's get into it.
15, 20 minutes. Jump in if you want. I think they've got even Reddit does some live stuff too. You can do live call.
We'll look into that. We want to get a little bit more feedback going to make sure it's going to be worth everybody's time. But even if we had one person come in and ask some questions and open up a discussion, I think
even share a story
for sure.
I think it's important for guys to talk.
Absolutely, and I think that's kind of to wrap things up. That's where Morgan and I are now. We're prepared for this baby physically. We have all the items we need. We have the routing down. We have a game plan in place. Now it's just talking about real world things, because as much as you plan for a baby, I know things are going to change. How are we going to adapt to it? How are we going to take time for ourselves? How are we going to involve grandparents and, literal uncles and
babysitters,
uncles like yourself, because you're going to be an uncle. This is a good time to kind of talk about that. So let's leave you with that today. I think that's a good place to leave off. Think about some of these things that we talked about. Not only go get yourself a bottle of new Riff Balboa Rye.
Great
Get creative with some of these baby gifts, but think about what is going on in our world and how that could affect a future baby or your current baby. And talk to friends and family. Open up that discussion and go, this is something I've been thinking about. What are your thoughts on it? Because I get so many ideas from you. I get so many ideas from Bill just by talking about it. So open up discussions and have a conversation with each other. And I think it's only going to help you as a parent. It's going to help your kids in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good thoughts for concluding today.
Yeah. At any rate, well, hey, thanks for joining us. Jump over to YouTube. Like I said, bottles, &bottles. That should get you there.
It'll get us there.
If you're not on Instagram, follow us at bottles.n.bottles. And I've got an empty glass. But hey, as always, bottles up.